and family and friends and neighbors around me. And if a flood, storm, blackout, or whatever happens, you don't want to wait on medical services if you're someone who requires meds like albuterol or insulin. So if you've been thinking or haven't set a plan for having emergency meds on standby, don't wait. Jace Medical makes it super simple. You can use my code Aisha, IESHA, and you'll get a great discount on medications that you need. You can find the link in the bio or the description. All right, thank you guys so much. So I just noticed something that on YouTube, you guys are just hopping in. So sorry about the delay on that. This is the first time we're streaming on YouTube, and it's exciting, but I didn't know I had to press that little button there. I thought it was going. So forgive me for that. Next time I'll have you guys right, okay? All right, let's get back into the Tulsi Gabbard report. So I'm going to read this through to you guys. This is the notes I took personally as I watched through everything, because I like to do my own research. Like I said, I like to watch these press conferences, etc., without news commentary, so I can have my own conclusion on the matter, and I can do my own research without hearing somebody else's maybe biased or untrue narrative. So I did watch this live, and here's what Tulsi Gabbard said. So the presidential daily brief drafted on December 8th, so this is where we're starting, December 8th, 2016, it stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted voter counts. This document was then pulled 1 hour before its publication due to quote unquote new guidance. Following day, December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called, gathered by Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, former president, and CIA Director Drennan, James Clapper, Obama's DNI, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI James Clapper assistant sent an email to the Intelligence Committee with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request, President Obama. On December 9th, later that day, Brennan ordered the publication of substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been held from publications of prior assessments because the info was judged to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some info used in the Obama ordered assessment was reported unclear or from unknown sources. Okay, so this information, again, was reported unclear or from unknown sources. Still, they ran with the story anyway. CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment because they stated, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which stated, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspire to help President-elect Trump's election chances when possible by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him. I do want to also mention, I don't have this in my notes, but from memory, I can tell you guys that Tulsi also mentioned that that Russia did have some information on Hillary Clinton, down to her health records, that she received injections, some mental issues that she was struggling with as well. Now, how they got this information, they said, in a briefing that James Comey, I believe, gave, he mentioned that they didn't find evidence. They couldn't rule this out, but at the time they didn't find any evidence that it was because of her emails, her being on a private network or private server, I'm sorry, was the reason that they got this information. Okay. But they couldn't rule it out either. So because she did, when she was, she was in her email, they said that she was with adversary nations as well. Russia would be one of them. So that goes back to her email. I think I strongly believe that it had to do with her emails because how else would they get that personal information? And she stated that the only the 33,000 emails she deleted were all personal. Okay. Medical history is very personal. All right. She said it was her family, yoga, and all that stuff that she deleted, 33,000 emails that they were never able to recover because her team used BleachBit, and deleted it. But if it wasn't that important, I don't understand why you would go through that much work to do it. But anyways, I digress. The ICA, this is Tulsi Gabbard's report, guys. The ICA did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The Democrat Party officials in Washington, namely Adam Schiff, Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton, who went on TV and told the American people that Donald J. Trump is an asset of Russia. It was a lie. Okay, so she's going to be submitting that information to the DOJ and the FBI. That is already underway right now. Again, that entire 200-page report is available for us to read through, too, if you want to see that. But those findings are pretty shocking, guys. And when we talk about the deep state, we got to think about these things in layers, because remember, at first we believe that this, we're under, it's by the people, for the people. And we thought that the American people were in charge, right, with the elections. And then no. Then we said it was the lobbyists, the people that had the money, right? The billionaires, the millionaires who could drive campaigns and get people to push agendas that they wanted. No, then we find out that that's not true. And then now we get to the deep state, the people like in this report who can make secret meetings with the president, like President Obama, and recraft a whole new assessment of something and frame someone and spew it to the media, and they run with it. So this is concerning. If we're talking about the deep state, we're talking about the people that we didn't elect, the CIA, those that have the authority to hire and fire whoever they want. The CIA, we're talking about the in this case, also the DOJ and the FBI, those who, instead of doing their job and being honest, acting integral and keeping their oath, protecting this nation from both enemies, foreign and domestic, didn't do that. Okay, so they made loyalty to the past president versus the American people in this United States of America. So this is, again, I reiterate, the reason why we elected Trump. We had hope that somebody outside of Washington, D.C., somebody outside of the narrative of a politician would be the one to do this. And of course, that would be met with a ton of attacks. Right. And of course, this is under, investigation is under review, and we're going to see the findings of this, but it's just very wild, because there was, again, no evidence even before Tulsi Gabbard released any of this. The conclusion was there was no evidence for collusion. Trump called it a Russia hoax from the beginning. How many of us believed him? Right. Next, I'm going to move into the Epstein Files, because these are both kind of tagged together, since this is about the administration and transparency. So, in the Epstein Files, I'm going to cover this just a little bit. I saw a report, I believe it was this morning or yesterday, something like that, but this was always reported, that Trump did appear in the Epstein travel logs and was mentioned on the flight logs. However, the DOJ says these files describe contacts or social interactions, not criminal wrongdoing, and not on a client list, okay, or evidence of criminal conduct involving Trump exist. Okay, so that's what we currently have, and that's always been public knowledge. Okay, now, because again, we talked about this, or I was on the podcast, I believe, earlier this week or last week. I believe it was last week, maybe, with a friend of mine. We were dissecting the whole Epstein file case and the handling of AG Pam Bondi on this. Didn't necessarily agree on how she rolled things out, and the public, since the media likes to just run with it, you have to be very careful. And also, since the public has always, us as Americans, we've always had this conspiracy, these conspiratorial, I would say, opinions about Jeffrey Epstein, right, and the whole thing, because it was very fishy, from his suicide in jail to Maxwell to everything, right? Well, in the effort of transparency, Donald Trump has told AG Pam Bondi, the DOJ, to go ahead and release everything that they have, right? So they moved to do to deseal additional grand jury documents citing public interest and versus secrecy norms. And also, that included the grand jury secrecy, which I didn't think was a wise thing for them to move to even do. But I guess in an effort and attempt to do it to see what would take place, they did get pushback, and I believe they're not able to release that. I don't honestly think that that's the wisest thing to do when it comes to this. Yeah, release the other stuff that you have that is available for the public to consume. But when you get into things like this, the grand jury secrecy, we're talking about witnesses, and we're talking about people that may have been a part or in the vicinity of Epstein in some type of way, or Epstein in some type of way, but never committed a crime, being looked at as guilty simply because of the money in their pockets. And a lot of Americans, not, I've seen this on my even my socials posts, just simply because they have billionaire attached to their name, they're guilty. Just simply. And we can't do that. Okay, we can't just judge someone just from the money that they make, and from how they got to where they are. We have to have evidence that they did it. Okay, we can't just rule them out just because they make more money than you. But because that's just not enough evidence. You can't just go around doing that. Like, what if you're a billionaire and you're innocent and somebody says, "Oh, you're a billionaire, you did this," right? You'd be super upset, especially if you're innocent. You'd be upset if that's not your character. And so, when it comes to this motion, I believe they got some pushback and they're not able to release this. And I think it's a great thing because, again, if a witness can say, I don't want my name public, I don't want this testimony to be public, etc., can't be protected under the Grand Jury Secrecy, and at any moment, any president could say, release it, and they're supposed to be protected under that law, then why would a witness come forward if they already are, if they're afraid of the public judgment, etc., or being attacked? Why would they come forward with information to assist in any case? Right? That exists to allow the witnesses to be able to come forward without scrutiny. And when you talk about the people that may have been mentioned that are innocent and not, at all proven guilty or part of the client list, etc., again, if you release this type of information to Americans that are not lawyers, that's the public, not lawyers, you're not a judge, you didn't go to school for that, and here you are trying to judge things and make your own conclusion as if you are, you're going to find some discrepancies in that. And we already have, this is a years-long investigation that has already been painted by the media to American public, by the media to the American public. So I think that's very dangerous to do. So I'm really glad that was called back. Again, I agree with releasing as much as we can in the effort of transparency, digging as deep as you can. So they are also going to be meeting with Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, in Palm Beach to see if she has any more information on the client list, etc. So with this renewed speculation, so they are doing what they can do, I believe, and I in this instance, honestly, we're gonna have to leave this into the hands of the DOJ, of Attorney General Pam Bondi and her Deputy Attorney General as well, who's going to be meeting with Maxwell and see what we can gather from what she knows. I'm going to digress there because I was just thinking about, Maxwell is probably going to make a plea deal or whatever the case might be, and that might be the case. But if we could get some information that takes us somewhere, I think they'll make the best judgment on the findings of that, and the end goal of that. Okay, so when we're getting to the midterms, right? So I want to chat a little bit about the recent candidates for mayors in our nation. Considering everything that has unfolded with Iran and Israel and Gaza and what we're learning as Americans in these different nations. I was recently talking with a friend of mine who is from Ethiopia, and we were just talking about some things, and I love her story. She's an amazing story about her being here in America and getting her status cleared and everything. Great story. But one of the things that again we hit on in Ethiopia, that you see in Iran, you see in the Middle East, is this attack. Like, it's just normal to bomb places where civilians are. We're not used to that in the United States. And if you dig deeper into the ideology, for example, of Iran, I'm going to hit there. I know a lot of us see this as a religious thing because that's a religion, but it's actually politics for them. It's not just religion. Their ideology and things they believe and what they do, that's just not separate. Okay, so we can't see it as just religion. I think we need to start making it what and calling it what it is. It's actually their politics. And when they talk about assassination on Donald Trump, they put out a fatwa on Donald Trump and on Benjamin Netanyahu. And said death to America, death to Israel. When they make those types of notions, I like what Dr. Ben Carson said. I'm going to reiterate this again. If you've ever watched my podcast before, I've said this before. You're going to hear it again. And if you're new, then you're here for the first time. But Dr. Ben Carson said something that I'll never forget. He said, Our enemies cannot beat us militarily, so they attack us from within. And you see that, like, you see that with in Europe, right? That they are populating, they are taking over positions, they are changing the laws, they're kind of running that, right? And this is the whole goal of Islam, is to dominate, to take over, right? And to crush anyone in their way who disagrees with them or doesn't bend the knee to Allah. We see this, and this is just to usher in again their this is their whole political ideal. And we cannot see this just as religion. I'm sorry, it's just not, because this is what how they live. This is what they don't. This is how they live. And so we talk about Omar Fateh or Fatah. I understand he was born here. Okay, he was born here. I believe he was born in Washington D.C. But you still see him hold the same exact positions in politics as Zoran Mandani. Okay, socialist. And as we're running far right and turning this nation around in terms of its values, in terms of economics, etc., we see the Democrats doing the far left agenda, right? And so Omar Fatah, he has become the Democrat nominee for mayor in Minnesota, and then Zoran Mandani in New York City, right? If you look up their policies, it is extremely similar. Now, there are some policies and some standings that we don't have clear yet from Omar Fatah from Minnesota, but Zoran Mandani completely clear on what he wants to do. Their policies stances are in stark contrast to what Donald Trump is doing, the vision, the MAGA movement, America First agenda, etc. Because America First agenda includes capitalism, it includes businesses, it includes you being able to build something for yourself, own something, right? The issue, I think, when it comes to owning something is that when you own something, you have a greater obligation to fight for it versus when you don't. And if that is what we're seeing from these mayors that are rising up in this as of now, socialist agenda, this is concerning. Okay, especially for me as a Christian, and for many Christians, this should be concerning. So, guys, definitely, as we move into the midterms, I just want to encourage all of us to make sure that we get out there and we vote. We get out there and we know who we're voting for in the local election, because that does affect the national. In terms of, we've made some major victories when it comes to parental decisions for school and the woke agenda and all these things, and fighting for our libraries to not have these types of books showing children how to have sexual intercourse and all these things. We have a major victory under Trump in so many areas. But in order for us to run hard with those victories, because he cannot do this by himself, we have to know who we're electing, who is running in the local elections. Okay, we have to be 100 aware of that. And I personally, what I would like to do, and I've spoken to a friend of mine too, is we're going to find out who these people are. We're going to make the people in our neck of the woods aware, so that they can make informed decisions, because we want that turnout during the midterms to be really good, right? To not just let this slip by and allow certain people to get elected and us not know who's elected. Okay, we have a major victory under Trump, but in order for us to continue to carry that when it comes to parental choice for school and all those things, that's done at the local level. So we have to get out there, we have to vote, we have to know who we're voting for and put those people in office. And again, Trump's major victory does not mean we stay silent. We just, he's good. We're good now. We're not good. Okay. As you can see, Trump has like 4 years. Okay. And he's doing a great job. He's running really solid. But we have to, after those 4 years, what's next? We don't know. Hopefully, maybe someone like Vice President JD Vance gets elected, right? But we don't know. We don't know what's going to take place after that. But I believe if we continue to stay informed, we wake up to what's taking place in our nation, we do our research, our evidence, and all that, we will be able to conquer so much in this nation. And we're already on the I would say precipice, if not already booming, when it comes to this economy, in terms of the jobs that are being brought in. Okay, because of Trump's hard stance on tariffs and American manufacturing and farmers, etc., because of his hard stance on that and making sure that this nation down for the better of the American people. So we have those things already in place for us. But when you talk about these mayors like Zoran Mandami and Omar Fatah, who have different agendas, like they want government ran stores and things like that, these things sound good to the people that I believe are just ignorant to the power of capitalism. And they only can see their struggle, right? And I believe there's a struggle in New York, and I believe that this is probably one of the main reasons why these people's policies seem very appealing. And this is something we have to address and on the right too, as well. And I do think that Donald Trump, his policies and on tariffs and the many businesses that will be coming into this nation bringing in jobs. Now granted, we're going to have a time where as they begin to invest in this nation, they have to build that infrastructure. They later on have to build systems and then hire people, right? So we are seeing that movement now taking place. So in the meantime, the economy is, kind of on the up. We're getting on the up, but you might not see that full effect yet where you are, because that takes time. But I believe one thing is guaranteed to us is that this economy will drastically flip once we get all those things settled, maybe in the next year or so. We'll see those drastic changes. But this economy has to change. It has to change around for the betterment. And I think Donald Trump is doing a great job with that as we see all these investment coming in. And it's not at the expense of taxing the American people out of their money, right? So we're seeing that stark contrast. But have to be aware of what's taking place in our nation, and people, please make sure that you are at the polls on the local level, not just a national level where the media blows this up. Okay, be informed on your local level to know who is running in your city, in your state, so that you can be a part of that. And make sure your state is set up where you're living, because it's going to affect you. Where you're living is set up for the best for your family and for your state. Okay, because I honestly don't believe that Omar Fatah and Zoran Mandani are at all great candidates, honestly, for mayor, considering their stance on certain things and their definite the socialist thing is just not good. It's just not good. In the long term, they'll see that. And I'm not willing to give up any state in America for this. So I will continue to talk on this topic because I want more people to be aware of the dangers of this. Okay, capitalism is a very powerful means. I mean, even if you look at China, they got it very, very unique. While they're communists, you still see them allowing businesses to people to own businesses and do things like that, right? They're very, very unique in the way they do it. And we're constantly trying to make sure that we are um, staying ahead of them, right? Because they don't do it traditionally. They do have it very unique in their nation. So yeah, if we want to stay ahead of China and all our enemies in terms of AI, tech, and all that stuff, we need to have less government overreach. And that is exactly what Trump is pushing for. And he is the top one in government as a president, of course, second to the Congress, but he makes a lot of the decisions. Executive orders are only for the term of the president, guys. So please be aware of that. So the executive orders we have in place right now have gotten us a major victory. But again, that's only 4 years. Okay. So we need to be making major changes in our states. So getting out there again and voting is going to be key for us and helping this nation stay above, stay on top, when it comes to AI and it comes to our weaponry and it comes to all these different things. Trump, again, major victory in all of those areas, but we got to run hard, guys, locally too, to sustain that nationally. Okay. When we talk about Omar Fatah, I'm going to just end with this on Omar Fatah and Zoran Mandami when it comes to their progressive agenda. Universal health care, tuition free college, police reform. Zoran Mandani has already said he is not going to be partnering with ICE. And we saw that even Congress has put a budget for ICE, and they didn't hold withheld on that. They actually upped that budget. Okay, so for ICE, for the border, and things like that. So in Congress, they're on board with this too. So this again, not supporting the ICE agents who are there to protect you, who are there to make sure that they get criminal people that have gotten over here or across our border and are dangerous. Those people to be out of our country is their main goal when it comes to securing it. And We saw, I don't know if you guys are aware of a recent thing in New York where an off-duty ICE uh, officer was just minding his own business, enjoying time with a significant other. I don't know who that woman was to him. And two people, illegal immigrants, I think they were from Honduras. Don't quote me on that. Were driving on a moped and saw them, they had their back turned to the two illegal immigrants, and they were just sitting next to, in front of the water, just looked like they were chatting, enjoying the evening. And these two people on mopeds, two illegal immigrants on mopeds, saw them. They rode past them, then they end up slowly backing up on their moped. They get out. One of the illegals draws his weapon, which in turn the off-duty agent ends up drawing his service weapon, and he gets shot in the face, and he also gets shot in, I believe, the arm. And then he ends up shooting the person that was trying to rob him in the leg. And then that person, the illegal immigrant, ended up riding off, and I believe they caught the perpetrator. And the ICE agent, guys, is said to recover. He's doing really well. I remember at one point they said that he was fighting. He's fighting for his life or something, but he's actually doing good now. But again, that was an off-duty ICE agent. It had nothing to do with, they didn't even know each other. It had nothing to do with his job. The people, the person that attacked him, the illegal immigrant attacked him, didn't even know who he was. It's just a random attack, and it's just wild that was, and ironic that it was an ICE agent, off-duty ICE agent. So in New York, so we see that New York has some major issues. So yeah, those things have to be addressed. Zohran Mandami has a focus also on rent control, stronger labor protections, and climate action, divergent from Trump priorities on deregulation and border security. Okay, because what Trump wants to do is he wants to deregulate things so that we have these businesses operating without the interference that holds their, those different policies that hold their businesses down. And again, 80 million Americans voted for this, majority of Americans. So midterms will determine if the nation doubles down on Trump's legacy on this agenda or pivots to left progressive path. Okay, so that's our only two options right there, guys. And I believe, again, Trump is doing a major thing, and again, less government control, less government overreach, allowing the markets to thrive and to flourish. We're seeing that take place. Okay, I want to get into some Trump wins, guys. And if you could put that final image up for me, please. Trump wins, because we got a lot of good wins, just the recent ones. Okay, because if I were to get into everything that happened during this administration, we'd be here for more hours. But during the first term or second term, should I say, as well. So Trump's international wins. I want to talk about trade and reciprocity, and this is in regards to Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. So major wins there. We saw representatives from Japan. He met with them. So here's what we're seeing: an expanded trade agreement balancing tariffs on autos, agriculture, and ensured reciprocal access for U.S. goods and strengthen the supply chains. And I want to say they did a 15% tariff or something like that, but we're seeing reciprocity, guys, on there, and then opening up of the Japanese markets to our business leaders in these sectors. Indonesia, new investment framework, reduced tariffs on tech imports, doubled bilateral trade. They built strategic foothold in Southeast Asia. And then finally, in the Philippines, and he had a meeting with the Philippines representative as well. I kind of tuned in a little bit for that, and it seemed like the that meeting went very well. It seemed like they were on board. We were one of their biggest companies or nations for trade. So what we have there is a revised defense trade pact, eased steel and palm oil tariffs, emphasis on mutual market access and military cooperation. Okay, so yeah, so that Trump diplomatic leverage is reshaping the global trade, and so we see more countries coming to the table, making deals, opening their markets that weren't previously open, or readjusting their tariffs so that it's fair for our companies here in America. And I encourage you guys to make sure if this is something you're interested in when it comes to trade and working overseas, that you do your research, take advantage of these markets that are opening up for us. If this is something you want to take advantage of. So there's so many different nations. I mean, my last podcast we talked about Africa. and the many multilateral Africa leaders a lunch that he had where a ton of the African leaders from different nations, a host of them, talked about their different markets being open, and they were saying we want this was like clear, like they clearly stated we want American businesses to come and invest in our nation. We want to put our nation first, just like we see Donald Trump doing, and it's an admiration across the world that sadly some of us in our own nation don't see or get. Every time you watch these leaders talk about Donald Trump, is something favorable about what he's how he's transformed this economy around, about us being, Donald Trump has stated this, but I think it becomes real again when we hear other nations say it. He said that around the world people are saying this is the hottest nation ever because everybody wants to make a deal. Like he said, when we put the tariffs on, everybody's going to want to make a deal, right? He recently said that he would rather just send out letters than meet with people one on one and go back and forth. And I get it, but I'm very very grateful for the work that he's done in our nation. And again, guys, we're going to see a great turnover economically in the next few months, years, as these businesses begin to settle, as tariffs again, we have these tariffs agreements, etc., with these different nations take place. So I hope that this podcast, I hope that this episode kept you guys informed on Tulsi bringing the receipts, our Epstein files, and also the fight against an Islamic takeover. And I'm just going to be blunt and say what it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or change my language because that's exactly what it is. But I hope this kept you guys informed. And consider subscribing if you're watching on YouTube or following if you're watching elsewhere. I go live Thursdays, 2 to 3 p.m. ET every single week. And you can hop in with me, and Aisha Speaks Truth. If you got questions, you can always leave those down in the comment section. Sometimes I'll have hosts with me, or special guests with me, and they do invite those questions if there's something that an expert that I invite with me says, or they didn't cover something that you have a question on. You could definitely do that. But make sure you hop in with me next week. I will be having a good friend of mine, Lindsay Loomis, and she'll be hopping in with us, and we'll be chatting, and you'll be able to hear that discussion as well. So I want to thank you guys so much for being with us. Make sure you check out those sponsors. You should see them in the description of this podcast. Our sponsors help for this podcast to go live, and for me to share that Christian conservative point of view for you to stay informed. And also you can find me on Aisha Speaks Truth on YouTube, on TikTok, as well as on X, and try to remember all the Rumble, and then Aisha Schreiner also on Facebook as well. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in with me. Stay informed, stay alert, stay